It's August 29th, and thank you for tuning in to the Driving Forward podcast. Whether you're joining us live or listening in on one of our 18 platforms, including Wreaths Across America Radio, where we broadcast every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time, we appreciate your support. Throughout the show, we invite you to share your comments and questions at any time. Your engagement fuels our discussion and helps us navigate the world of transportation and logistics together. Today, I'm extremely excited to welcome Amanda Schuier, a fourth-generation trucking industry professional and the strategic maintenance director at Jetco Delivery. Amanda has over 18 years experience across various roles in marketing, sales, driver recruitment, operations, safety, and maintenance. Amanda's become a trailblazer in our industry, and she's not only recognized for her leadership and innovation, but she's earning accolades in a lot of spaces. And as I've learned more, I've known Amanda for a few years, mostly from a distance, but as I've learned more about Amanda, in 2020, she won Women in Trucking's Top Women to Watch Award. She also won the Fleet Owner magazine's Women Leaders in Transportation. In 2021, she was named to the Women in Supply Chain by Supply and Demand Chain Executive Magazine, and she was also a finalist for the most influential women in trucking by Women in Trucking. And then in 2022, she received the TMC Silver Spark Plug. Amanda's committed to advancing the industry's future, making transportation careers more desirable for a next generation. She currently serves as the 65th General Chairman and Treasurer of the ATA's Technology and Maintenance Council, and is a respected voice at industry events and conferences. And I am extremely excited to hear her insights and experiences today. Amanda, welcome to the show.
What's up? Your intro music is like hype music. Like that was awesome. I'm super impressed. That was good.
No,
that was good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We made that. That's actually, we're coming up on our year here shortly. Technically, we're over a year, but we started doing weekly shows in the first week of November last year. And that's one of the first things people said. And I've never changed the intro. We've never changed the intro since we started. So it's a great truck.
Perfect.
And it's good music. So
yeah, never change.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that music has to stay the same. And the only thing I'd ever want to do is actually, instead of having the animated Pete, go out and get the real one.
There we go.
A real red one going down the road, have the iconic truck. So
that's awesome. Love it.
So if anyone has any comments, if anyone wants to heckle Amanda, feel free. So we talked about this beforehand, so I might as well just throw it out there. Feel free, throw your comments in chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Once again, Amanda, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I did a last minute mic change. I was surprised I got that done. But if you can hear me all right, let me know, or if you can, tell people about yourself. Let's hear the Amanda story.
The Amanda story. You don't want to hear all that.
Well, the brief. Abridged version.
The abridged version. Yeah. I mean, you said it well in the start. I'm actually a fourth generation member of the trucking industry. So my great grandfather owned a trucking company, and then my grandfather owned a Mack truck dealership. And, I grew up there as a kid. I have a picture that I keep on my desk of me at 18 months sitting on the hood of a Mack truck. So grew up around it. And then my dad and uncle both worked in the industry, but my dad became a dentist. And I actually have a degree in journalism and Spanish. And so trucking was actually not on my career path. But I was laid off from a job and looking on good old monster.com, and a truck dealership in Kansas City needed a marketing person. And so that's kind of how I got connected to the industry. And yeah, that was 18 years ago, when I was 12, got my start. So yeah, and honestly, like I just fell into it. But I love the people, and it's just been so awesome. And like you said, like the trajectory I've followed since I got my start in the industry has been a lot of fun.
No, that's awesome. You brought something up, which is, not very many of us started out our career paths with the intention of going into transportation. I've had this discussion with a lot of people on the show and countless people throughout my career. I certainly didn't go down that route either. My original intent was law enforcement. What I mean is that you kind of on the same page there. The vast people that you're working with coming from other industries as well. Are you in agreement there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think I know quite a few people in the industry who have that like familial tie, like I do. But then I think there's a lot of people who just fall into it, and whatever circumstance it is, I think a lot of people who fall into it stay in it, which is cool.
I always say if you make it a year, you're in for a lifetime. Uh,
I feel like that's probably an accurate
yeah,
statement. Yeah.
yeah. Do you think that this is changing a little bit with newer generations? That maybe some people are coming into the industry with intent, with maybe the younger generation, or do you feel like it's still the same way that it always has been?
It's a zinger. I think I think what I'm starting to see, like seeing some dedicated like supply chain programs is really cool, right? So I think the intent there obviously is go through those programs and come out and work in the industry. But I do a lot of work with a local high school up the road, and not many of those kids are like, "Hey, I'm going to go into trucking," right? It's been really interesting. Just this last year, I started working at a local high school, and hearing the perceptions of trucking from the high school students was really interesting. And being able to help reframe that to some of them was really fun for me, and like really satisfying. But a lot of the perception is, oh, it's unsafe, you don't make money, it's a terrible lifestyle, like all of that definitely still exists. And so I still think it's a tougher sell to get people to say like, "Hey, I want to make my career in trucking," compared to other fields.
Oh, that's a great topic too. We actually didn't discuss that or even talk about discussing that ahead of time, which is just that career path from high school um, into transportation. And that's, I think, one of the hiccups is, to some point, the supply chain side and even the logistics, potentially brokerage side, has a pathway through higher education, or programs, whether that's VOTEC or a 4-year school or whatever the case may be. But certainly, the driver side, you can't do that coming out of high school. Well, not easily. There's obviously a pilot program going on right now, but you really can't do that. So the career path for a driver is not there. So you graduate high school, you got to go figure out your life another way, and then come back, or basically not like what you did, and then fall into driving. So I find that that's the same way for trucking operations largely as well. No one's really, that career path, why there's so many people in trucking operations, uh, that career path doesn't track the same way as supply chain.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's it's
Uh,
it's a tricky one. So this class that I was working with last year was actually an alternative math class of all things, which is super random, but I love what they were doing. And they were having speakers from different industries come in and talk about careers that you can take without a degree. And so they had, welders come in, they had plumbers come in, and, here I come in representing trucking, and the teacher made him guess what I did, and not one of them guessed trucking, obviously. But you're absolutely right. So I think what we have to do, as trucking companies, is figure out creative ways to get younger people involved. So I might not be able to hire a truck driver, but I can hire a warehouse worker, right? I can hire a customer service representative to train into dispatch. Things like that we can show that career path. I think you're absolutely spot on in that regard. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's 100%. There's a way to go down that route to bring someone in early on into, but I don't think companies also advertise for that either. I mean, those it's been a disconnect, and instead we end up getting a second and third career choice. So, which isn't always a bad thing. I mean, actually, the skill sets that when Tim Kralinski was on, he was talking about a training program that they had developed, and the people that had developed it were former teachers that are now working at his company. So, that's something where you're bringing in a skill set that you wouldn't get if you're developing your own. So there's a mix of that. That's interesting. So you had kind of touched on this a little bit. How do you see mentorship playing? Mentorship's always been there. I don't think it's been structured, but you're obviously doing some level of mentorship. So what kind of role do you see mentorship playing in the trucking industry? And how do you recommend industry veterans like yourself can help guide new talent as they're entering the industry, or even as they've been established, moving forward from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a huge proponent of mentorship, right? And I think mentorship can take many different forms. I think sometimes it's just a casual conversation, with somebody at a meeting, an industry event. Hey, do you have any questions I can answer for you, right? I think sometimes it's more structured. Doing some of what I've been doing at the local high school. I count that as mentorship. I know there's a couple industry associations that are making like classes or pools of mentors and mentees, and I'm excited about those. I think one thing that is important for industry veterans, kind of like us, is to not only be the mentor but still continue to be the mentee. Like, I still have mentors in my career at this point, right? And I think that those are people that I depend on for, kind of my career advice, and being my hype squad, and talking to me about, things that I have questions about. I don't think you're ever like too old for a mentor. And I certainly think that, especially, like I said, kind of growing up in this industry, I've had to have, several people to kind of run things by and bounce things off of. And so I don't think you're ever too old for a mentor.
I agree. I don't. You always are at a different phase in life. So you're always at a different phase in life. You're always looking for the next step. I think we talked a little bit about that before we came on. And your next journey, you always can use advice on. Maybe you take that advice differently. You have different experiences, but mentorship, and sometimes you don't necessarily know who a mentor is until you look back 10 years and you go, wow, these are the mentors in my life. And they didn't know that they were a mentor at that time. So, taking the action of an advisor to people, I think is great. But I think, just listening to people and learning from their skills, where you're going next, that's awesome. So I knew this comment was coming in, and I knew he would probably be the first one. So thanks, Matt. But absolutely, I agree. And that's a wonderful full point. And
I
as we're
paid him I paid him $10 for
paid
that.
him $10.
Yeah.
So I thought his hourly rate was a little higher than
Enjoy that coffee there, Mr. Leffler. I'm cheap.
so fair enough. Fair enough. So moving kind of down the road of mentorship a little bit. I mean, and then let's talk a little bit more about this, because this is one that we've actually talked about internally with some of our people at GLCS, and just naturally in network with some people I know. It's a topic that's come up recently, so I'm curious what your opinion is. How do you target mentors? How do you find a mentor? What's your thought on that? Because mentors don't just fall out of the sky. Maybe some of them might, but sometimes you have to seek out that and find the right person. You maybe don't consider them a mentor. You're looking for advice, but how do you capture that person, that mentor?
No, that's a really good question. I feel like almost you kind of have to be bold. You kind of have to put yourself out there. And I guess I'll tell the story of somebody who's now become a good friend of mine. Her name's Carrie. We were actually getting ready to attend Women in Trucking a couple years ago, and I got an email and it said, "Hey Amanda, congratulations on your nomination for this award. I was wondering if I could buy you a cup of coffee and chat at the conference." And I'm like, "Holy crap, that is the best way to ask to get a mentor and have a conversation." And we did. Sure enough, we sat down and had lunch and had a great conversation. And she's somebody that I keep in contact with now. So Carrie, if you're here, hi. But otherwise, I think if you're looking for a mentor, I think it is important to kind of throw yourself out there, right? And if a person doesn't respond to you or doesn't give you their time, then they're probably not a really good mentor anyway. But I know that if I get an email like that, or even if I'm at a conference and somebody says, "Hey, can I talk to you for 5 minutes? I have a question for you." 99.9% of the time I'm gonna listen to them and have that conversation. So I think just putting yourself out there and like having that conversation, with a potential mentor. Obviously industry events are good, looking at different networks and stuff like that. But doing your research, like using LinkedIn and seeing what people do and like sending them a message and just putting it out there, I think is really a great way to handle that.
I agree, and I think as the less experienced people are, if you're using LinkedIn, I recommend that you put context behind it. So especially for anyone that has a active LinkedIn account, if you're reaching out to them, everyone's looking to network. I know if you reach out to me, I probably I get a massive amount of inquiries, but so many are solicitations. So make sure that you identify that it's not a solicitation and it's a actual um, real request to just meet. So but the industry events, I agree, I love having that where somebody just swings by or you meet and you talk with them and you develop a relationship. I think that's the whole point of doing that. And social networks, same thing too. They're just hard to I've struggled navigating them lately. So
I think too, like do the research and find the person's email address. Like nine
yeah,
times out of 10, you can find their work email. And like if that comes right to my inbox, then I'm
yeah,
gonna check that out. To your point, a lot more than a LinkedIn message. But adding context to that LinkedIn message for sure is
yeah.
important. Yeah, good point.
So moving past the mentorship side, in your thoughts, continuous education in the industry. I know we're talking at high levels, but kind of continuous education in the industry, keeping up with all the evolution. And I mean, you've been in the industry a little, probably 10 years less than I have, but still quite a long time. And you've seen the revolution over the last 10 or 20 years. It's a lot different than what it was when you first came into the industry. So what's your thoughts on continuous education? What's your recommendations there on training? Recruiting's under your purview as well. So you're seeing the changes in driver recruiting and the requirements around drivers. And maintenance is the same thing. That's a completely different technician job today than what it was 20 years ago. I mean, that's night and day different. So what's your thoughts there?
Nate, you just asked me like 5 questions.
I know. So, all
I'm
right,
gonna
what's your
break it
thoughts on
down.
continuous education?
Okay. So continuous education, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge industry junkie and like I don't ever try to stop learning. And I think that, instilling that through my team, at Jetco, I think is really important. When I took over the shop the end of last year, the first thing that my techs and the guys said was, "We want more training." And I think that was really interesting because, I thought kind of we'd had some training happening and programs happening, but that was the first thing they wanted. And so I think that it's a really good sign when your employees want training. Like, to me, that means we have an engaged employee. It means they like what they're doing. They want to learn more about it. So I took that as a really good sign. And so for me, I guess in that realm, like, I like training, I like learning. I think it's really important in our industry, to learn and grow with the changes. I think we're a little bit more reactive as an industry probably than some other industries, but I think learning the new technologies and keeping current is really important. But yeah, I'm absolutely in favor of education and training for sure.
And I agree too. When you see your team asking for the training, asking for continuous improvement, and once you see that happen, finding a way to continually do that, offer, whatever your vendors typically will have programs that you can open up to them that allow them to dial in once a week, once a month, whatever the case may be, to just stay up on current topics that they're working on, or whatever the case may be. But building that program out for your team. Let's shift gears, talk a little bit about TMC. So that's coming up to the 1 year mark here soon. So you've been busy over the last year.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, we got a Rocco comment quick. So
okay.
So, and I need to process it. So, yeah, open to be learning and sharing your knowledge. Thanks, Rocco. So I actually was just with Rocco yesterday. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Good deal.
But
Yeah.
so
TMC?
TMC, let's go back
Sure.
to TMC.
Yeah.
What's been going on there over the last year? So that's a big role.
Yeah, TMC. So I actually we have our fall meeting here in a couple weeks in Raleigh, North Carolina. So behind the scenes, I'm really busy with our meeting prep. Coming up for that meeting. But I took over as the general chairman in, I guess, March. It's all a blur.
Sorry, I was thinking it was an October flip. It's a March flip.
No, you're thinking of MC&E, but close enough. Yeah, I'm not ready for that level of
No,
of prestige
fair
yet,
enough,
but yeah, no. So took over in March, and it's been really fun. My theme of the year is just engagement, which I just talked about a minute ago. But I think one of the things I'm seeing in industry organizations is just that people want to contribute and they want to help, but sometimes they don't know how. And so, I think a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about really ties together, but mentorship, training, education, like those are all kind of my like big picture items, I guess, for TMC and for the year. And, I've been a TMC member for almost 20 years, and I've been different types of members there, right? I've been on the sales side, I'm on the fleet side now, but, I've kind of seen the organization grow and change, to your point, throughout the years. But, I think the output that we create, which is our recommended practices, for the maintenance repair shop, how do we properly staff our shop? How many technicians do we need, to put in the shop? Stuff like that, is really critical to what the organization does. So yeah, we meet twice a year, fall and annual. And our fall meeting, we have our TMC Super Tech competition. So a lot of people who are familiar with, obviously, the truck driving championships, which just happened in Indy, right, last week. I saw the grand champion there, Jackie Reed, win. That was pretty awesome. But we have kind of the technician version of that. So we break the trucks and bug the trucks and do all the fun things, and then we have professional diesel technicians kind of figure out what's going on with them. So it's super fun event.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's when in October?
September, like it's soon.
Oh, that's right. It is the end of September. Yeah, that's right.
Well, mid-September, like the week of the 16th. Yeah, we're in Raleigh.
Yeah, it overlays another
I know.
dealing with. So
I know it's tough, but yeah.
So many conferences.
It's hard to be in multiple places at once, for sure. I know.
Myself. So many conferences, so little time. So running through then, so you have that coming up. That's a big thing. I mean, so your experience and how you felt over the last, that's a big job. Um, good overall. Is there a lot of travel with that? I mean, kind of explain what, I mean, you've had the two major conferences, but I know you do a lot more than just that. So if you want to, what's your involvement in TMC during the year that you're in the role that you are?
Yeah, I mean, we have board meetings and stuff like that monthly, but that's all virtual. Usually TMC has a summer meeting out in DC. This year, we just had a real small meeting out in DC for our board. Got to meet with Chris Spear and Dennis Dellinger from Cargo, who's going to be the ATA chair starting in October. He is the current ATA liaison to TMC. So super cool guy, super supportive of TMC, which is really awesome. I travel for other stuff. I obviously am a proud graduate of the LEAD program, graduated in 2023. And so that year was a lot of travel, all the ATA meetings, the mid-year, the MCNE, stuff like that. I'll be at MCE this year, MCNE this year, representing TMC. I'm in ATRI, and then this fall I get to talk to both the North Carolina and Alabama trucking associations, which I'm super excited about. So yeah, busy fall for me.
And great segue into, so busy fall, lots of things, but great segue into ATRI, and because you're on RAC, or the Research Advisory Committee, because you have all this spare time. But that's what, a 2-year commitment on RAC. Yeah. And are you renewing on that? Are you going
I'm
for another 2 years?
done. I did 2 full terms, and
Oh,
yeah, so I'm done. They took applications kind of for the next class, but they get appointed by ATRI's board, as part of MCNE. But yeah, the Research Advisory Committee, for people who don't know about it, it's honestly probably one of the coolest things I've gotten to do in my career in trucking, and I don't say that lightly because, like you said, I've done a lot of cool things, but the RAC basically meets once a year to kind of establish the industry's research priorities for ATRI for the upcoming year, and it's really great. And the thing about RAC is it's a really broad cross section of people. And so when I started in RAC, I was representing basically a 25 truck fleet. And I was in the room with the big guys, and I'm like, they don't want to hear a thing about what Amanda and her 25 trucks have to say, but they actually did, which was really cool. And so working with that group, like I said, I'm at the end of two-year terms, and that's when I'm sad to be leaving. But I think that I will always be an advocate for ATRI and the work they do, because basically the RAC reads a bunch of information papers and research proposals, and then we get to duke it out and battle it out to kind of help decide, okay, which are the ones that should be funded for research priorities for the next year. So yeah, RAC is cool.
yeah. I wasn't in sync with the time, so I was going to throw my hat in that rank, or rank, but I missed it by a few weeks, so I'll get it on the next circle.
I was going to say they have applications open for the 27 to 28
Already.
RAC, which I just looked, I actually looked it up because it really is worth applying. Like if you're in the industry and you are kind of like I am in terms of learning and really wanting to help guide the industry, I think that the work that the RAC does is just really cool. And what's cool, like being on the RAC and then seeing that research come out is really prideful, right? Like, oh, hey, I helped with that. There's sometimes not things that we do in the industry where we necessarily see like the direct results of something we've done, but ATRI RAC is really cool in that way.
No, I agree, and I obviously the information that they put out helps many people make lots of decisions. So it's informative. I spend lots of times and lots of conferences listening to ATRI information. So
Rebecca, Dan, Carla,
so
all the cool people.
all
Jeff,
the cool people.
Alex, I can name them all. Alexandra, Abigail, they're awesome. Yeah, ATRI, the
So
team in general is really
yeah,
cool. So
absolutely
yeah.
agreed. So on top of all of this, you still have a full-time job. So you still are the strategic maintenance director, amongst other things, for Jetco Delivery. Now, what are you all doing for Jetco? I know we talked about that, but let's state it real quick before we start talking about industry things. And then once we get through that, we'll take a brief break for a commercial.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like writing down some notes for this session, and I was like, the number one thing that I need is really good time management skills, but also quite honestly, having a supportive boss and a supportive company, and above everything else, I think I'm able to do what I do because of my team at Jetco. And like we have a day-to-day shop manager named Curtis, who I can't say enough good things about. He's grown his way up, through the ranks at Jetco, and he really focuses on the day-to-day. So I can put the strategic that's in my title, wherever it is. There we go. Put the strategic that's in my title. Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah, it's
I
right
get
there.
to do a lot of the big picture stuff, right, and the vendor relations and stuff like that. And then I also kind of oversee our driver recruiting still, and I have a great recruiter named Evan who, CDL driver himself, and came in, decided to stop driving, and he's really kind of taken it and run with it as well. So I think it's just having a good team of people and. Like I said, time management for me, I work weird hours. Sometimes I work late at night. Sometimes I work on the weekends. Like, I think that you have to be really disciplined and, knowing, like, I guess, my boss Kyle said to me once, like I've worked from home for some time now. I feel like if you work from home and you don't do your work, people know, right? Like they're gonna find out. So having that discipline, has helped me, I think, get to where I'm at now and able to balance it all. But I'm not perfect at it. I'm not. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, time management is hard. No matter who you are, no matter how good you are at it, you can always be better. I
Amen.
know of no one who's perfect at it. And then working from home is a thing, and maintaining that schedule is the thing. And I think in many cases, if you're someone with integrity, you probably end up working too much. So because that's just who everyone is. You have that honest level, and you're going to put in that effort plus. And you're not going to take whether they're going to know or not. There's plenty of tools to know, but whether they're going to know or not, people just have a level of integrity that are going to make it all net out in the end. So our team at GLCS is 100%, nearly 100% remote. We have a small office in Minnesota, and everyone else is in Canada and the U.S. and but scattered throughout. So very familiar with the remote teams. So let's talk diesel technicians. Let's talk the techs, and let's talk specifically about bringing them on board, the shortage, how that's been difficult. What do you feel is causing that difficulty in being able to recruit for that particular role? I think that's probably, in my opinion, that's probably the hardest role in transportation right now, just because we're a little saturated on the driver's side. But diesel tech, I know, is certainly one that's of difficulty. It's a topic that I'm close to, because that's my son's going to school in that direction. So
Perfect. Does he want to move to Houston?
well, he actually chose heavy equipment at this point. So, but
We'll convert him. It's all good.
yeah, fair enough. So
Yeah. No, yeah, no, so if you look at going back to ATRI, they put out their top 10 industry issues every year. And I was, both pleased and not surprised to see diesel technician shortage enter the industry issues last year or 2 years ago for the first time. Um, it's really tough. And I think it goes back to some of our earlier conversation about just getting people in trucking in general. And then finding the ones who want to put in, some of the hard work, the manual labor, doing some of that. But I think in terms of recruiting, And I guess this advice would apply to recruiting drivers and technicians. The biggest thing I can say, hands down, is just be honest. Like when I started in driver recruiting 10 years ago, the stories that I heard and like the things that drivers would tell me that recruiters told them is just we've got to stop doing that. Like to ourselves in the industry. Like it's just we have to drop it. Be honest. And I think like we talked about that career path, just because they're a driver or a tech, just because, it doesn't mean that they don't want that career path, right? We have a technician who wants to be a service advisor. We have a driver who wants to go into dispatch. Like having those conversations during recruiting, I think is also really important. And I think like for our technicians, explaining how we can advance from a technician C to a technician B, right? Or a technician B to a technician A. Like having some of those development things, I think that's really important. For techs and drivers. Like so, in my driver segment, we have a heavy haul team, and they have to go through different levels of training to go to the next level to be a heavy haul driver, right? So going through that advancement is really important, and I think that I think people just want to see that they belong and that there's also opportunities for growth.
Right. No, I think that success path to something to strive for is always important for someone. If there's a dead end and there's nowhere to go other than the current state, then all you can do is optimize what you're currently doing. And having that career path, having that challenge to exceed and get better is always, I think it's human nature. We're built to try to better ourselves. So I think if you have that well defined and you're big enough as an organization to define that, you're building yourself up for success. I'm going to take a brief break here, and I think we'll run a quick commercial, just a GLCS commercial, because we might as well. So.
If your fleet's downtime looks like chaos, you're missing out on GLCS. In the fast-paced world of trucking and logistics, time is everything. Meet GLCS, your expert partner in managed IT services. We integrate seamlessly with your team, bringing seasoned IT professionals with deep transportation and logistics expertise. Imagine your software updates running smoothly, complex issues resolved quickly, and operations humming with efficiency. GLCS has your back. Our support doesn't just fix problems, it prevents them. With our industry connections and proactive approach, we keep your trucks rolling and your brokers working. Think of us as the added resource your company needs to unleash its full potential. Visit glcs.net today and keep your business driving forward. GLCS, where efficiency meets expertise.
So as we were talking there, we were talking a little bit about the sort of how you're pulling people in, you're giving them a career path. What are strategies that you're finding effective to attract them to you to begin with?
Good question. I think for Jetco, so we're a little bit smaller. I think that we have a lot of luxury still in the word of mouth, which I know a lot of companies can't do that. And certainly, we pull drivers and techs in from other places. But I think when I was in driver recruiting, what I would call like high volume driver recruiting, those referrals were the ones that I wanted to work, day in and day out, because hearing it from another driver or another technician is going to do better than anything that I could sell, right, in recruiting. I think getting out to career fairs, having those conversations with guidance counselors, that's something I wanted to bring up earlier when we were talking about high schools. Like, it's also talking to guidance counselors about, not always pushing that college is something we have to do, and like, changing the message with parents that we don't have to send our kids, to college and, stuff like that. But just being out there, industry advocates, stuff like Lindsay's doing with Next Gen and trucking, stuff like that. That's just important. We should all be doing that, for the industry in general.
Yeah, more talking, more making the general public aware of what we do, more aware of all the great jobs, especially on the asset-based side. I think like we had talked, the supply chain end has been doing this for ages in on the college side of it. But no, I agree. There is plenty of career paths for people that don't have college degrees, that aren't aspiring to go to college, and there's nothing wrong with that, and they pay well. So in a lot of ways, you're going to outrun people with college degrees. So historically, that's been the case, at least. What would you say, or what's some thoughts then, if people are struggling to retain? We'll start with the technician side. If companies are struggling to retain technicians, what do you recommend they do? What's some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I wanted to start with drivers because I had a really good answer for that one, but that's okay.
I'm not going to say that's the easy answer, but
I know.
that's the question that everybody asks.
I know.
So.
Well, and technicians is more in my my realm now, but I'm a big like people person, and so sitting down and having conversations is really how I approach pretty much everything. Is there something that I'm doing that isn't working for you? Is there something that your supervisor's doing that's not going the way you want to? Is it the hours? Is it the working environment? Like just having conversations. Checking in, and not just to say, hey, did you get that wheel seal done in your allotted time? But like, hey, what are you up to this weekend? Right? Like little touch points that just, show that you're invested in your employees, I think is really important. I don't think there's a magic bullet, obviously, in Houston, as any market, the market for diesel techs is super, super tough right now.
Right.
And my guys don't work in air conditioning, which God bless them for doing that. We did get them some portable AC units, so at least they have that, and we keep them, popsicles and Gatorade and all that stuff. But man, that's tough. And like to keep them there and engaged and working at Jetco in Houston when they could probably go to a dealership and have full AC and stuff like that. Like, I think that speaks to really the culture we're trying to create, and like the desire for the guys to, want to stay there and be part of the team. I think it's a people thing for us.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, that's definitely the first approach. And then based on the discussion, you resolve the issue. Absolutely. So you're involved, or have been involved a lot in the various, women in trucking. How do you see the role of women, or how, I'm going to craft this differently. What role are women going to continue? Because that's a big change over my career, right? I've been in almost 30 years, so big change in the role that women are playing in trucking. There's a lot more drivers. There's a lot more women in various office staffs. But what role do you think women are going to play to shape the future of trucking and logistics?
Wait, can I give my driver answer about retention first? Because it's really good.
Yeah, let's do driver.
Okay, so back to ATRI again. Here's what I'll tell people, like from my years of like operations and dispatch and that experience. When ATRI puts out their top 10 industry issues, if you look at it carefully, there's responses from drivers and there's responses from motor carriers. And if you're at a motor carrier and you're like, oh yeah, my top 10 like lines up perfectly with what my drivers think, and then you go and read what the drivers actually say are their top 10 issues, that's where you start. So like at a motor carrier, our top 10 issue might be insurance, right? Or nuclear verdicts. But if you look at drivers, it's truck parking. It's a safe place to stay at night. It's, am I going to get my next pay raise? So if you look at those lists from the driver's standpoint, it's like literally a playbook of like, here's what I should start talking to my drivers about. Pro tip. There you go.
That's my exact answer. When someone looks at if they have a retention issue, we start at ATRI's list. So that's literally my exact statement to them. However, it pays on there, but you do have some other things that can wrap in as far as culture and whatnot.
Yeah, not just about pay.
But the generic response is start here, go down, rank yourself. If you're poor on the top 3, that resolve those. So, but absolutely great answer. I had to laugh as soon as you said that, because you don't know how many times I've said that exact same answer. It's very insightful. So, all right. Restate the question again. What role do you think women will play in shaping the future of trucking and logistics?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question, because it's not even a thing to me, right? Like, I guess the way I would answer that is, I'm happy to see more and more women getting involved in the industry. I think, some of the research that's being done out there right now about barriers to entry for female truck drivers is really important. We had a professional driver from Jetco participate in that survey, and she got to share her thoughts on why maybe women wouldn't want to go into trucking as a driver. I think that's something I can't personally speak to. I've never driven, so I don't have that insight, but I think I am able to speak to, why women may not want to get involved, in the industry in the first place. But to me, it's just not even a thing, right? I've been here for so long, and like, to me, it's just kind of the place I want to be. So it's but yeah, I mean, of course, I want more women involved in the industry. Like, of course, I'm a proponent of that. And hearing women who are successful in the industry is, really rewarding to me. But I don't use that to kind of make my decisions and, career choices, stuff like that.
Beautiful. Wow. I am going to shift the gears a little bit. So coming up on the later part of the show, going to throw one at you a little different.
Oh, no.
If you could choose a theme song every time that you walk into your shop, what would it be?
Oh, man. I don't even know. Like, I just picked walk-up music for TMC for the meeting coming up. And so in New Orleans, I had Taylor Swift for my daughter, because obviously, but coming up in Raleigh, like, I don't necessarily want to give it away, but actually this band like literally just announced that they're going on a reunion tour. So I probably did just give it away. But that was exciting. But like, walking into the shop, I feel like it would have to be something really funny. The guys in the shop call me Kansas City because I live, in Kansas City, and they're in Houston. And so I feel like maybe it would be like a Chiefs, like we could play some Red Kingdom. I feel like that would play when I walk into the shop.
Fair enough. Yeah, I could see that. So, well, now I'm interested in what your walk-up music's going to be at ATA here. So now I need to know. So fair enough.
I also have different walk-up music for other leadership in TMC. So we have, the board members, and then we have our study group chairman who are getting their own walk-up music, and they don't even know it, but now they do.
That's awesome. I love doing that. We used to do that on the show. For every guest, we get walk-up music, or we get, music for when they come on. It ended up being tough to do, and then you have YouTube issues with it. So, but it was fun. I enjoy it. So, but nothing better than a good walk-up music. And
here's the icebreaker question I have for you. If you could be a condiment, which condiment would you be? Yeah.
I'm going to go probably with ketchup, because majority of the people use it, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
just ketchup? Because you're kind of in the realm of mine.
Well, just ketchup. I can be more than a condiment.
Well, like mine is Whataburger spicy ketchup.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? Gotcha. So I'm like, have you ever had spicy ketchup?
I've been to Whataburgers, but I can't identify with Whataburger spicy ketchup.
Okay, it is life-changing.
Okay.
So you could be spicy ketchup instead of just
next
ketchup.
time I'm in Minnesota, so Whataburgers don't exist around here. So the next time I'm near a Whataburger, which will probably be sooner than later, I will try their spicy ketchup.
They're all over near Jetco. So if you ever come visit Jetco, I will take you to
Actually, I'll
Whataburger.
probably be I got something going on in Houston sometime
Nice.
in the near future. So we'll be down that way. I'll definitely be in Dallas for Broker Carrier Summit in October. So
Got Whataburger there too.
Yep. So in October, I'll pick up something and see how that goes.
Perfect.
So,
Spicy ketchup.
spicy ketchup.
Just do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I bet you it's been 20 years since I've been to a Whataburger. So I can even tell you the last one. It was on my way from LaPorte to Corpus Christi. I was driving from LaPorte to Corpus Christi. That was the last Whataburger I went to. So long drive, but somewhere in there I stopped at a Whataburger. So I was driving a convertible.
We just got him in Kansas City because Pat Mahomes wanted him up here. And if you're Patrick Mahomes, like, you just make a Whataburger. So now we have Whataburgers everywhere. So
that's all it took. Mahomes wants it, and
exactly.
They show up. That's
pretty
crazy.
much.
So
I wish I had that power. Right?
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden you want, and here comes a fast food restaurant. So that's crazy. So kind of moving into Nothing Without Trucking a little bit. Nothing Without Trucking is largely, and we talked about this a little bit before. We just touch base on it every episode a little bit and chat about a few questions, a few thoughts. But Nothing Without Trucking is the ATA's initiative to educate the general populace around transportation, and largely the acceptance of trucking has gone up a lot over the last few years. I think from 60 to 80% general acceptance of trucking, but they don't necessarily understand what we go through on a day-to-day basis. The constant attack from trial lawyers, the constant attack from environmentalist groups, and how much more advanced the industry has become. The fact that we've removed 98.5% of all pollutants from our trucks. That a truck today is 60 times more clean than it was in the 90s. So 60 trucks on the road today produce the same amount of emissions as one truck from the 90s. So those type of statistics and getting that out. But then, getting real stories from people in the industry and chatting about some of their experience. So with that being said, can you discuss how trucking impacts everyday lives, just in general, everyone's everyday life?
That is a big old deep question. I mean, I think that I would be nothing without trucking, right? My own career, right? And what I've experienced, all of the travel, all of the people that I work with, all of the things that I do is because of trucking, right? And I think that, to your point, I think that trucking has become more recognized as, an essential part of our lives. But I think that people who aren't like you and I, they can say that. But people like you and I who like literally play, truck grill bingo driving down the road, it is really, truly a part of our lives. And
Right.
Like knowing that, how hard the drivers are working, the people in dispatch behind the scenes, the road breakdown crew who's helping, recover a truck from, an incident, stuff like that. Like, to me, that's just a daily part of our lives. And like, that's, I think, probably a lot of stuff that people don't see out there that's so critically important. And if that stopped, that would be terrible, right? I mean, it would literally, shut our country down. And so I think, continuing to make it make people who aren't in the industry really truly understand how the supply chain works and all the things that trucking does is just really critically important.
No, I agree. That, I mean, 100%. I can't even add anything to what you just said, other than I've never heard truck grill bingo before, and
What?
I'm running with that.
Oh my
I am
God, it's
so running
awesome.
with that.
It's
Well,
all I play with my kids all the
that's
time.
totally what it is. And
Yeah.
I was just coming from a partner of ours yesterday, and another GLCS employee was with me, and she said, I never looked at trucks before I started working here, and not in the same way. And she goes, now, and she's been here 7 years, and she goes, now I'm like, I count, we work with a lot of companies, and she's like, I'm like, oh, that company. It's just, that is absolutely, I've never heard it described as truck grill bingo, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely a great
I'm
way.
like teaching my kids to recognize the grill based on like the make, the manufacturer.
Yeah.
We also play it with airplanes in the sky. So like the easy one is Southwest, right? It's always a 737. But I'm teaching my kids, that's a 777 because I'm an airplane geek too. So maybe it's like a transpo thing for me. I don't
Yeah.
know. But yeah,
Once
once a geek, always a geek.
when you were growing up, were you like naming cars?
No.
Yeah, well,
I know. My dad failed me.
yeah, that's I would name cars, but my dad was a mechanic, so
I wanted a Ford Contour when I was a kid, so there's a problem.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not a car. Somebody that's weird.
That was my
So
dream car.
that's
Like a
that's one of
teal
those.
Ford Contour.
That's strange. That's
That's
one of
a
those.
problem.
That's a fun fact. You should use that one,
That's true.
when needed. So, what's
I
something
might.
strange about you? Well, when I was a kid, I wanted to have a Ford Contour. So,
Many strange things, but yeah, Ford Contour, baby.
all right. Well, final question, and then we'll start wrapping this up. Unless you have anything else that you wanted to bring up, what is the most rewarding part of working in trucking?
Everything. How's that for a cliche? No, I love what
Yeah.
I do. I mean, it comes back to the people in our industry and the opportunities that I have. Working on the maintenance side of things at Jetco has been a dream come true for me, to be totally honest. Doing what I was doing before and employee engagement and recruiting was super fun, but working with our shop and working with the techs is really been a really good experience for me. So yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I love our industry. It's something that I plan to do for a long, long time. So it's super rewarding. Awesome.
Awesome. Great answer. Anything else you want to chat about before we wrap this up?
No, it was great. Had a blast.
Yeah, like I said, you blink and the time goes by. So I really appreciate your time on here. Anything I can ever do for you, just let me know. How can people find you? Where?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I mean, honestly, LinkedIn's the best way to get a hold of me. Just don't send me the solicitation email or like it's solicitation LinkedIn that we were talking about. But yeah, I post quite a bit on LinkedIn about industry stuff, ATRI, TMC, lead ATA, all those things. So LinkedIn for sure. I use LinkedIn quite a bit.
Great. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to wrap things up here. You're welcome to hang out or you're welcome to bow out, one of the two. But appreciate the time. Look forward to seeing you soon, wherever that might be. But this was great. Thank you. All right. So wrapping things up. Once again, thank you, Amanda, for coming on. We really appreciate it. We have, as I've said the last couple of weeks, Freight Movement's website is up and running. www.fr8mvmt.com. So another Freight Cut podcast is on a bi-weekly schedule. Should have an episode up soon. You can find it on YouTube and LinkedIn, also on the website. So check it out there. Looks like we're going to be announcing a next event, a major event. We're going to have some small pop-up events coming up here. Next event is going to be announced for early November, fairly soon. GLCS, we will be at Trimble Insight, September 15th through 17th. Some of us get in on the 14th. So if you're around, let us know. We're happy to meet with you. Love to get together with everybody there. You can't miss us. We're going to be around. So Broker Carrier Summit will be there as well. That is October 23rd through 25th in Fort Worth, Texas. Broker Carrier Summit, this is going to be a great event. Lots of people. I haven't heard all the numbers on attendees yet, but there is a great list of speakers at Broker Carrier Summit this year. I'll probably do a episode around Broker Carrier Summit in October. We're cinching up the date. We'll have the whole Broker Carrier Summit crew on at some point, but I think we're locking in the date in October. Following that, next week, we have a GLCS panel on selecting a TMS. So we're got a great crew of people. Jeremy Thone, who is our podcast producer and somewhat well known out here. So Jeremy's been on with GLCS for some time, and he'll be leading next week's podcast and asking us a whole bunch of questions. So if you have questions ahead of time, we would love to hear them. Send them on in. We'll queue up questions for this particular panel on next week's episode. The following week, I have my friend Alex Mai, Mother Trucker, on, and we'll be talking about life, logistics, and all things trucking. So Alex has had a few life events. He's moving from Florida into Texas. There's some family movement as well. So he's been super busy, and we're just going to spend an hour getting caught up. And Alex will also be one of the speakers at Broker Carrier Summit as well. So we have a stacked lineup for the next few months. Really looking forward to it. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, let us know. Reach out via messenger or email to drivingforward@glcs. And with that, we'll wrap this week up. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.